Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Tat Savitra Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. अस्तो मा सद्गम्य तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गम्य मृत्युर्मा अमृतं गम्य ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सवीर्यं कर्वावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम. Let's open our books. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So we've been looking at different ways to meditate, to connect with God, because that's the purpose of meditation, to connect with God. There's some meditations on the Adi Bhautik, some meditations on the Adi Devik, then meditations on the Adhyatmik. On the Adi Bhautik manifestations of speech, mind, and prana, we have been learning in the last few verses. Then he talked about the Adi Devik also on these three. He said the earth and the fire are to be meditated as the body and its content of speech, heaven and the sun as the body and its content of the mind, water and moon as the body and content of prana. We all know when the speech is based on truth, it becomes all powerful. The mind gets immense power when it attaches itself to that universal consciousness which we call God. That's where the mind gets the power. Otherwise, scattered mind is a weak mind. The same way the prana becomes invincible when it identifies with the truth. And all these three, they lose their powers and become weak only when they are attached and limited by the individual at the bodily condition. So when we limit ourselves, to me and mine only, we become weak. The strength is when we connect all these three, our speech also, our mind also, our prana also, to the highest. That's where the power is. And that's why this Rishi is telling us to meditate on these three in this way. So the result of meditation depends on the nature of meditation. If a person meditates upon these as a finite, as a limited, a person will attain only limited result, finite result. But if a person meditates upon them as infinite, the result which accrues would be also infinite. That's why even when we sing that Gayatri mantra, what are we praying for? Prachodayat. We are saying, God, make my intellect higher and higher, bigger and bigger. Take it to that infinity. In the case of a person who practices meditation on these three, or any one of these three, speech, mind, and prana, can do the functions of the other two. They are related. So it's almost like one identifies himself with all the three, becomes one with the whole universe. So you start with one, but you get the benefit of all these three. Today in these verses, we will see another meditation on the identity of the creative principle with the time factor. The lunar month is constituted of the 16 days and nights of the bright and dark fortnights. Representing the 16 digits of the moon. That's a symbol for meditation on the creator, Prajapati. Having 16 parts or digits, which is called Sola Kala also. 16 parts. Of the 15 days in each fortnight, each day has connection with one digit of the moon and one digit of the mind, which is presided over by the deity of the moon. We all know the influence of the moon on our mind, which can be felt by all of us based on the influence by the sense desires. All the 16 digits are not generally manifest in all. Only a few are seen manifested in ordinary men. But in realized person, you can call it a God man or God incarnations, all 16 are fully manifest. Sola Kala Avatar. I'm sure you have heard that term before. With the 15 come under the relative and temporal. The 16th is the transcendental. That 16th represents the invisible conjunction between the new moon and the next day. And that between the full moon and the succeeding day. So the mind is supposed to attain the 16th digit on the new moon and full moon nights, which have a great significance for a religious and spiritual sadhak. That's why these instructions are given by this rishi, that on these 2 days, as a part of your prayers, as a part of your meditation on the 16th digit, you should not kill or even hurt any being. Even if you think that being is the most insignificant creature, it could be a mosquito, a fly, minutest bug. Don't kill it. A similar meditation given is on the 16th digit, constituting the creator identified with the time principle, which is identical with oneself. Wealth, cattle, because in old times, cattle was one of the power, or anything else that one possesses, are the 15 digits. And what is the 16th digit? That is the self. So the 15 are transitory. They come under the space and time. The 16th is eternal, transcendental. Even though 15, they appear to be larger because we can see them. See, just like this body seems very large compared to the 1/16th. But that 16th is like the axle in a wheel, supporting the wheel. They're similar to the spokes. So that 1, the 16th, is superior to the 15. Those 15 cannot remain intact without that 1. See, just like in this body, or the mind, or the intellect, or the ego, or the prana, or the speech cannot exist without that 1. See, just like a center of that wheel. Because while the spokes and the circumference of the wheel go on moving up and down, the center is steady, it's motionless. So is the Atma. That is the 16th. Changeless, supporting the changing phenomena. Body is changing, mind changes, intellect changes. But Atma does not change. Changeless. When a person loses all his possessions, he stands firm and unmoving because he rests on the Atma. I'm talking about a person who has realized this, not a person who is dependent upon the moving. One should meditate on this Atma. Like, while everything of mine is transient, I am verily that eternal being. We need to meditate on that. Those Mahavakyas from the Upanishads, Aham Brahmasmi, that's what it means. Believing that, or focusing on that, meditating on that I am Brahman, eternal. Not the transient, not the temporary, not the fluctuation. So through this meditation, what happens? We overcome all the greed and the passion. In fact, the need for any possession itself vanishes when this kind of a meditation becomes fully situated. So this is what we are going to look into these verses today. And if you remember, the last 5 verses which we did, 5, 6, and 7 of this section, in the 5 he said, these 3 indeed are the 3 Vedas. Speech is verily Rigved, the mind is Yajurved, the prana is Samved. And in the verse number 6, he talked about the Devatas, the Pitris, and the human beings. These are verily the Devatas, the mains, and the human beings. Speech indeed is the Devatas. Mind, the Pitris, and the Pran, the human beings. Then in verse number 7, he talked about Pita, Mata, and the offsprings. These indeed are the father, the mother, and the offspring. Mind is the father, speech is the mother, pran is the offspring. So that means wherever we see, we should connect with God. That's what the meditation is all about. Try to connect with the essence. With the help of living in this world, doing your duties, roaming around in these transient relationships or transient things. Fix your mind on that. Now let's look at verse number 8 today. That's where we are starting. Vigyatam vijigyasasya avigyyatam et evaha yat kincha vigyatam vachah tadrupam vag agdhi vigyatah vag enam tad bhutva ev iti. These are indeed what is known, vigyata. So this vigyata means known. So these are indeed what is known. What is to be known? Vigyasya, that is to be known. And then avigyatam, that is unknown. So these are indeed what is known, what is to be known, and what is unknown. Whatever is known is a form of the organ of speech. So we can name it only when we know something. So whatever is known is a form of the organ of speech. Because speech is a knower. The organ of speech protects him. Who knows this? By becoming what is known. So this mantra makes a broad classification of the whole universe into three categories. The already known, that is yet to be known, and the unknown. The Upanishad says that whatever is already known, or it has been comprehended, or you are enlightened by that knowledge, is to be identified with speech. So whatever we know, only then we can talk about it. Otherwise, we'll be very vague about it. Because speech itself underlies all knowledge and all revelation. That's why there's a common saying that speech illuminates everything. Speech is the only support for knowledge. When a person speaks, we know how much and how deep that person knows about any subject. Support for knowledge, speech. A person who knows this nature of speech, speech protects him by becoming his support. Nothing in this known world stands as an obstruction before him. That person becomes identified with the visible world. That's why we study these scriptures. Through all this, these rishis, they knew whatever they knew, they are telling us through speech. Now in the next verse, it's almost like a continuation of that. Yat kimchah vijigyasam manaha tadrupam mano hi vijigyasam manaha enam tad bhutva ev iti. Whatever is to be known is a form of the mind. Because the mind is what is to be known. Thought comes in the mind and you want to know it. So whatever is to be known. So speech was what you already know. Mind is what should be known. Because the mind is what is to be known. The mind protects him who knows this by becoming what is to be known. So just like in the last mantra, in the same manner, we can understand this, that whatever is to be known is to be identified with the mind. We think about it. In fact, before any action, before any karma, we think it. We almost imagine it. Then we do something. That's why the wise people say, even before speaking, think before you speak. Look before you leap. Those are the words of wise people. Because mind has a distinct characteristics, which is the desire to know more and more. That is a function of the mind. It does not get satisfied. It wants to know more. We want to dig deeper and deeper into any subject. Mind is never satisfied with any amount of knowledge, actually. Its nature is to know something more than it already knows. That is mind. However, some people hold that the mind has the nature of doubting about things yet to be known. Sure, there is a doubt, but mind is not as easily understood as speech. That's why doubt comes there very quickly. Speech, there is a clarity. But the purpose behind the speech, what is in the mind, there could be a doubt. So it is identified with what is yet to be known, which remains vague and less clear than what is already known. Okay. So what is known, that is a speech. What is yet to be known, or whatever is to be known. That's the nature of the mind. Now let's look at the third part to it. The prana. Yat kimcha vigyatam pranasya tad rupam prano hi vigyatah pran enam tad bhutva ev iti. This is verse number 10. Whatever is unknown is of the nature of prana. Because prana is unknown. Prana protects him by becoming that. Another word for prana is what? Vital force. Is unknown. Why it's unknown? Because it's extremely subtle. It is not that easy to comprehend. Or you can say it is not comprehensible. We can comprehend the breath, But the breath which carries the prana, we cannot comprehend it. It is that subtle. So that's why this Rishi is saying it's that which is unknown. So this is the purpose for this meditation. Something we don't know, but we need to know. Pran, which is the same as Hiranyagarbha in the cosmic aspect, is generally unknown by the individual mind. But through meditation, we can know. So we have to pierce through it. That's what meditation is. It's almost like a laser-like light to know it. But this Rishi is saying, for most of the people, it is unknown. But he who meditates is protected by the cosmic prana. There's an individual prana and there's a cosmic prana. Let's look at verse number 12. No, verse number 11 first, then 12. Tasya he vachaha prithvi shariram ज्योति रूपम अयम अग्नि तद एव वाक तावति ही पृथ्वी तवान अयम अग्नि. The earth is the body of that organ of speech. See, speech was the grossest of those three: speech, mind, and prana. So now he's putting it next to the earth. Earth is the body of that organ of speech. And this fire is its luminous form, organ. And as far as the organ of speech extends, so far does the earth, and so far this fire. And in fact, these three verses, 11, 12, and 13, they go together. So we will try to understand them together. So let's look at number 12 also. At etasya he manasodhyo shriram jyoti rupam va adityaha tad eva dev manaha tavatidhyo tavana samadityah tau mrithnam sam etam tataha prano ajayat sa indra sa esho asapannaha dvityo vasapannaha nasye sapanno bhavati ya evam ved. Now heaven is the body of this mind. See, earth is the body of the speech. Heaven is the body of this mind. And that sun, it's a luminous organ. So fire was the organ of the speech. Now sun is the luminous organ for the mind. As far as the mind extends, so far does heaven. And so far that sun. The two were united. And from that, the vital force was born. It is the Lord. And it is without an adversary. A second being is indeed an adversary. No adversary exists for him who knows this. So this is the relationship he's giving between the mind and the sun and the heavens. And the last verse of this group of three, verse number 13, At etasya he pranasya apaha shriram jyoti rupam asau chandraha tad eva nen pranaha tavatya apaha tavanasahu chandraha na ete sarvam ev sama sarve anantah sa yo het anantvat upaste he antvantam sa lokam jayati ath yo hetan na anantahu pasate anantam salokam jayate. Water is the body of this vital force, and that moon its luminous organ. And as far as the vital force extends, so far does water, and so far that moon. These are all equal in extent and all endless. Whoever meditates on these as a limited conquers a limited world. On the other hand, whoever meditates on these as unlimited conquers an unlimited world. So, what are we supposed to do? Because this Upanishad is about meditations. We should meditate on earth as the body of the speech, and on fire, which is the presiding deity of speech, as its luminous organ or content. We often use this fire with our speech. If somebody is getting angry, don't we say that person has a fiery speech? In fact, if we speak for a long time and loudly, we will start sweating also. We feel the heat produced in our body. So the vocal organ of Hiranyagarbha should be meditated upon as having two forms. One, the body, the luminous, non-luminous effect, and the other, the organ, its luminous content. Two parts to it. Same way, heaven is the non-luminous body of the mind. Because heaven is connected with the mind. Earth with the speech, heaven with the mind. So heaven is the non-luminous body of the mind, and the sun, its form as a luminous organ. We are all familiar with the luminosity of the sun. And water is the body of the prana. And the moon, its form or a luminous organ. So he says that see the divinity in them. Normally we just look at these things, whether it's a speech or the mind or the prana, only in a very general term. He is telling us to meditate on it, and he is teaching us to connect it through the physicality, but taking us to this transcendental area. And that's why he's mentioning this luminous form also. The prana was born as a result of union of speech with the mind, as fire and sun. So this prana should be meditated as the secondless one throughout. So all these speech, mind, and prana, and their respective bodies, and the luminous organs extend only as far as the relative universe. Because we know that as far as there are the speech, the mind, and the prana, so far are the earth, heaven, and waters, and also the fire, sun, and moon. All these are equal in extent and infinite also. Each of these is infinite. That's why we got to learn and meditate to reach to that infinity, that ananta. Because infinite pervades the whole universe in all its aspects. If a person meditates upon these, which are really not different from the universal Hiranyagarbha, as finite in their aspects, that means relating to this physical body only, or the elements. These rishis, they say that person is born as finite. Because that person did not meditate, did not reach to that higher level. So with the help of the meditation, we are supposed to expand our horizon. Prachodayat. On the other hand, a person who meditates upon them as infinite wins the infinite world, becomes a samrat of the infinite world. Hiranyagarbha. So today in these verses, we learned how to meditate. So not just meditate, we can meditate only if we can control. Do we have a full control over our speech? Or do we often say the words and later on we regret? Or we even say that, oh, I did not say it. Own your words. Be truthful. Be purposeful. Only then you can meditate on that speech. Only then you can extend that speech to that level, to the infinite level. The same thing with the mind also. Is our mind pure? Does our mind have that selfless thoughts? Have we risen above me and mine? So we can really reach to that higher, which he called the sun, the Hiranyagarbha, if the mind is pure. Dirty mind cannot reach there. It has to be fully concentrated and clean mind, restful mind. If mind is full of stress all the time, constantly worried, so fearful, agitated, full of greed, that mind cannot be the source of reaching the infinite. And Pran also. How much time we spent to really get to know this Pran Shakti? The other day I was teaching the bandhs. When you apply those bandhs for a long time, you feel that energy inside you, Pran. Otherwise, we have it, but we are not familiar with it. We are wasting another beautiful human form, the form where we are supposed to get in touch with this. And with the help of these tools, reach to the infinite. So these rishis with all these beautiful mantras, he's taking our attention towards these tools which we already have. Use them properly. It's almost like somebody has a very high-tech computer, but using it only as a tabletop. Can connect with the whole world through that computer, but using it, just putting it on the table and putting things on it as a trivet. That's what we are doing with our speech. with our mind and with this Pran Shakti. So this Rishi is telling us, try to meditate like this. Connect with that higher through these upadhis, these tools, which are so powerful. Do not waste them. Next week, we'll start with verse number 14. And he will explain these kalas more to us. The 15 kala and 16 kala and the swansar, that is like a year. So I'll talk more about it, starting from verse number 14. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for joining.